Hi, this is Carol Rose Adkisson, president of IE-CAMFT, here to interview with Jamie Nelson. She is an amazing therapist in Rancho Cucamonga, just opened her first private practice, and she's going to be speaking at our event on, is it 27th, right?
September 27th.
Yeah, I'm not always good with dates, but I know it's 9 to 11 in San Bernardino on the Loma Linda campus, and I'll post all that. Anyway, Jamie, welcome to this interview.
Thank you, Carol, for having me. I'm so excited to have a conversation with you, kind of share our information of what's going on. I did just open my private practice, Equilibrium Counseling Services in Rancho Cucamonga. We've been open since June.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's been a really cool growing experience.
Yeah, private practice will do that for you.
It will, but it's also been really fun.
Yeah.
So I work primarily with teenagers and young adults. So that kind of, I say 12 to 25 is my bread and butter. And so for the event for IE-CAMFT, I'll be speaking on Decoding Teens. So kind of helping clinicians, having conversations with teenagers and creating that open, communicable space in session, but also for parents of how do we incorporate the parent into the conversation and give them the tools to be able to really get what's going on with their kid.
Right. So how did you get into that, by the way, working with teens?
Goodness. My feeling for therapy is be the person you needed when you were younger.
Yes.
So I had a lot of my struggles really came up during high school of really feeling burnt out, really stressed. That's when my anxiety peaked. So if I can go back and help out another teen or preteen get through that with a little less pain or a little less scarring, that's what I want to do. I started, my first internship was in a middle school in Inglewood on campus, getting to work with the kids right there in their environment. And that really just made a big difference for me of being able to teach a person the coping skills to get through difficult, traumatic, or stressful environments or situations, so that when they're older, 30, 40, they're not coming in being like, I've been dealing with this since I was a kid and never sought treatment. It's like, well, let me help them out when they're younger. So you've got some of those skills in place. So it's not as bad later, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, I was disclosing to you before we got started, I have 3 kids. They're now 20, 21, and 24. So I just survived my last teen. I actually
Congratulations.
Thank you. I actually think 17 is the hardest age on the planet. I did a video on that many years ago. It's 17 to 18, that launching phase.
Yeah.
That's a hard one, but you start at 12, and what I have experienced is that 12 to 13 for girls especially is where you start to see who they really are. What have you
Absolutely
seen?
I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's really been an area I've been doing my own research in recently. And what I'm kind of finding is a lot of girls at the age of 12, 13, that's when the anxiety and the depression peak. And what my personal experience and research has found, that I think we're underdiagnosing ADHD in girls. Because it's showing up because inattention doesn't show up the same way for girls, and it turns into being anxious about not being able to keep up, and then it's the negative critical self-talk, and then the workload and the social expectations are all increasing. But now we're getting these girls who are really struggling at that age, but we're not diagnosing ADHD in women until their 30s or 40s.
Yeah.
So
you're preaching to the choir right now. I am an ADHD specialist, and two of my kids two of my kids are officially and have been 504 kids. They didn't meet IEP, and my other one may or may not have it as well. So I walk that walk with my own children and teach classes on that, and I totally agree with you with that. And I've also noticed that with boys around 14 is when I see them start to do that same sort of thing.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think the hyperactivity is diagnosed very young, but the inattention is always missed. And I agree with you. Girls is 12 to 13, boys is probably freshman, sophomore year. And it looks like depression. And then we're treating a mood disorder, and we're totally neglecting this, the learning processing side of it.
Right. Well, I mean, when you think about it, what does that do to their confidence level when they know they're different than the other students,
Mm-hmm.
and they're checking out, their brains,
Mm-hmm.
their neurons, and all this stuff are all
Mm-hmm.
pinging off of each other and not
Mm-hmm.
working, and so they start to create that lower self-esteem. That's what
Absolutely.
I've seen.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you. Yeah. So then I think what it comes down to is how we're ruling things out. Because if they're coming into therapy saying, I have low self-esteem, I'm depressed, I'm anxious, so we're treating that. They're not coming in saying, I can't pay attention, I'm spacing out, I'm forgetting, right? So then we don't even touch on that. And so we're treating the mood disorder, which is valid. It's there. Depression and anxiety are real.
Yeah.
It's not the source of it, right? So then we're helping it, but not all the way.
Right. So I always ask about how their grades are. And, I don't know what your experience is. I mean, we may be getting off topic a bit, but not because, some of them are, well, I believe their ADHD is brilliant.
Oh,
and so, and the AP classes, the honors classes are filled with those kids, and yet they're also struggling with their grades, being to the level that they could be at.
Yes.
And that's where they fight, that they don't meet criteria, because they're doing good, but they could
They're perfectionistic.
Right.
They're overcompensating. They're hyper-focusing on being able to accommodate that. But the amount of work and energy it goes into to complete those assignments, to maintain those grades, is exhausting. So yeah, I believe they're brilliant. I think it's magical. If we know how to harness it, if we know how to approach it and conceptualize it in a way that's like, hey, this is how my brain works. You're a science person, I'm an artsy person, that's cool. You have an I have an ADHD brain, that's cool. Like, they're just differences.
Right, to normalize it and not to pathologize it.
Absolutely.
You're not wrong, bad, or broken because you have this. This actually makes you uniquely special. I often bring up Steve Jobs, that, he was, brilliant and did very well and had problems, and also created Mac, so.
Yeah.
So, I do believe ADHD can rule the world.
Yes.
But I do believe it affects the teens.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So that's one thing that I've been really working on in my practice that I will be talking about in the presentation is I've started a teen group on Saturdays that has just been fabulous, because I'm not setting it up in a way of like, we're going to all talk about our anxiety today because we're socially awkward. Because that's uncomfortable. Who wants to do that?
Right.
So I do have it centered around some sort of project, usually an art creative project or something that is like a coping skill. So 1 week we made slime. This weekend we're making glitter calming jars. We've painted. We've come up with something a little active, and that's the center. And then whatever conversation sparks out of that, that's where we go. So it's more creating a community for the teens in the area to say, hey, me too. That's hard for you? Oh my God, I thought I was the only one. It's such a relief to know that I'm not the only one. Or they can make their dark humor jokes and not have to explain themselves because you get it. And so that's really been a fun thing to kind of help normalize it with what we were talking about of, hey, this isn't a bad thing. It's just a thing.
Right, exactly.
How we're going to work with it.
What time is your group at?
It is from 11 to 12:30 every Saturday. My group is full, so I'm starting a new group. It's going to be on Monday evenings from 6 to 7:30, and that group is open. So it will be the same exact setup, just another night.
Great. That is awesome. That's a great resource. The more groups that we have out there, the better. There's not enough out there, as you may see.
And if anybody out there listening wants to start a teen group, I will help you. There are not enough teen groups for the number of teens who need support, and I am so happy and willing to help you with the structure that I'm using or the marketing that I'm using to get that word out there, because we need more people doing it. So anybody who wants to contact me and we'll set it up.
We're actually in the process of it right now, so I'm going to contact you.
Nice.
Absolutely. We have one of my associates is working on creating that right now.
Awesome.
So I wanted to ask you a question about self-disclosure with teens.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, that is a controversial subject, right?
In therapy, we're supposed to not self-disclose. Nah, I do. But I always in the back of my head have that before I self-disclose, it's how is this therapeutic?
Yes.
And if there's therapeutic value to it, I do.
Mm-hmm. Right.
If it's just because like, oh, I want to tell my story. Unless
let's make this all about me.
About my cat.
Right. To me, the reality is if it's helping the client.
Right.
Then, then why not? Why not give them hope?
Exactly. I feel that the biggest tool in therapy is the relationship. Yeah. And if we can develop that relationship and that trust, no matter what modality I use, we're going to see progress. So part of building a relationship, it is still one-sided. I'm still taking care of you. Mm-hmm. But if you want to know about me, if me sharing like, hey, I have ADHD too. I'm on medication too. This is what my process of diagnosis was like. And that helps you see, okay, there's a path. And I can be your guide because I've been there. I'm happy to share that. Because we're normalizing it again. Like, right. I'm not this therapist that hasn't been through anything and I need to help you. It's, hey, I'm in therapy. I'm in couples therapy. I'm on medication.
Right. Yeah, my goal would be to get that into the school system that is teaching the MFTs that it is okay. I remember my first supervisor saying, no, you can't say one word. And, I kind of didn't listen to her because I was working with teenagers and I wasn't going to connect. We would play, we'd play war and then when, we'd get to the war, we could each ask each other questions. If it benefited them, whatever they asked me, I mean, of course, it'd have to be within reason.
Within reason.
Then we would do that.
Yeah.
And that's how you get the connection, right?
Exactly. And I think that's wonderful how you said it when you play a game and it's back and forth. So they don't feel like they're on the hot seat the whole time. So it feels like, hey, we're on the level playing field. And that's how I do all of my games. If we ever play a game and there are questions involved, I always answer too. Yeah. Because this is how we're modeling. We're leading the next generation and helping them figure out how to identify their emotions, know what their self-care is. And if I'm not modeling that for them, how are they going to see it happen? Because obviously it wasn't modeled in a way that they received before. Right, which leads me to a question about their parents. Yes. Okay, so this is another one. It's a tough one, right? When you're working with the kids and that they're going to go back to the family system that may or may not be, giving them what they need. They probably wouldn't be there if they were getting what they needed. Right. Not that the parent's doing wrong, bad, or broken, but still, they might be missing something. Right. So how to get a parent to listen without them feeling criticized? How do you do that? It's a wonderful question. I kind of do the same thing for the teen and the parent. It's the same dialogue, just kind of flopped of, hey, we cannot change the other person. The only thing that's going to change in the situation is you, because that's the only thing you actually have power over. So if you want your child to change, if you want your parent to change, you have to change first, and you will be the catalyst of change for them. So sitting with the parent, be like, okay, you don't like how they respond to you when you're asking them to do homework. The only way you're going to get a different response is if you approach them differently. So how can I empower you to come at your child in a different way and hopefully receive the results you want? So I receive like a backflash to, what I'm trying to say, that they don't want to agree with you about their child. Yeah. If the parent is not on board, then my conversation with the child is, okay, mom's not into this, or dad's
Mhm.
not willing to acknowledge it. So what can we do to help empower you with the people you can trust that are
Mhm.
supportive? And we're going to work on those relationships. And
Right.
when parent says something that's dismissive, we'll process that together and what the
Mhm.
corrective response should have been. And
Mhm.
then we're going to practice it with a safe person.
Mhm.
So I can't force the parent to change. And then that's what I talk with the kid about. Like,
Right.
sometimes I'll say, I agree with you. This is irrational. This is
Yeah.
where I think your parent is probably coming from. Maybe from what you've told me about your family system, this is why they're responding this way.
Yeah.
How can you respond differently to get a different reaction out of your parent?
Right. Yeah, you and I teach the same way. You can't control people, places, and things. So if you can't do that, all you got is your own response to do
Exactly.
it. That's it.
Exactly.
So, can I control my own mouth? Sometimes.
You have more control over your mouth than somebody else's.
Pretty much. I mean, I can't even control my own dog sometimes.
Yes.
So that is really powerful for teens to understand,
Mhm.
because children in general, don't you think that they have more control over their environment than they really do?
I think that's the hard thing with teens and children, is it's two opposing things. Yeah, sometimes I think they think they have more control than they do, and other times I think they feel like they have no control, and
Mhm.
they have no word, no say, no voice.
Yes.
And we're kind of like vacillating between the two.
Yes.
And how do we walk that line?
Right. So how does a child feel heard?
Exactly. Exactly.
Because isn't that really what all teens are trying to say is, please hear me?
Isn't that what all people are trying to say?
Yes,
Hear
they
me,
are.
see me.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I do a lot of couples work. That is definitely the argument of the century with couples is, do you hear me? But
Exactly.
teens are saying it in a different way because they don't
Yeah.
have control of their,
Yeah.
their life in the same way.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the biggest ways that teens say that we're missing is through their music. And I think this is true for every teenage generation that has passed, where the parent generation's like, oh, I can't believe you're listening. I hate your music. I can't stand it. But I think music is a way for a teenager to start individuating, start to become their self, have another, when they can't think of their own words to express who they are, and they use the music to express who they are. And if a parent or a respected adult is saying, oh, that's awful, I hate it, you're saying, I hate your words, I hate what you're saying, and we're dismissing who this person is trying to become. I think, yeah, a lot of the music right now is dark. A lot of it is kind of scary what they're talking about. But that's what your kid is thinking, and that's what they're hearing, and that's what they're talking about with their friends.
Yeah.
So you need to listen to it, and you need to talk with them about it, and ask, what is it that you like? Is it the beat? Is it the music? Is it what they're saying? Is it what we have so many people in film and television and music who are now speaking out about mental health, that a lot of teens are following these celebrities because they're talking to their experience.
Exactly. They're being real.
Exactly. They're being real. Somebody else has been through it. Somebody else is putting together the words that are in my head.
Right. All humans' heads. We got a comment. It says, wondering what verbiage is good for a 17-year-old whose mother is told her concerning things, is what she's saying. So I'm guessing she's saying, how to speak to a parent.
The mom, and the mom's wondering how to respond to it. I think a safe place to come from is always coming from curiosity. However you form any question or statement when you're trying to find out what's going on with your kid is to come from a place of curiosity.
Yes.
I don't quite understand this. Can you tell me more about it? How does this affect you? Are you okay talking to me about it? Do you want to talk to somebody else? Like, ask your child to explain what's going on. Don't make the assumptions about what it must mean or what it meant when I was a teen. Ask them to explain it, because now you're giving them a voice. They told you something. Oh my God, I love when kids talk about it, because then we can do something about it. If it's a secret, we can't do anything about it. So it's wonderful that a 17-year-old said something. even if it's scary or concerning. That means they feel comfortable enough to talk to you about that. Now ask them more.
Yeah, it's reminding me of, there's certain kids that speak up and others that believe they're being a snitch.
Yeah.
If they speak, to an adult, anybody over 18. Oh my God, God forbid, sooner or later, they're going to be 18.
Yeah.
But that, the secrets. I always say we're only as sick as our secrets, and teenagers often have a lot of secrets. Well, do you see that too?
So when I'm hearing you say that, the first thought I had was 13 Reasons Why. And how much I enjoyed that show. Because I think that kind of reinforced what you're saying of like, we can't tell adults, we can't trust them because we'll figure it out ourselves. And it really gives power to secrets. And I think that's really scary. It's really scary. I think it did give us a platform to talk about this with our younger generation. So if you have teenagers, you better be watching it to know what's going on. But I also think that if it is brought up, they want help. Even if, like, I'll have teens tell me about their friend and ask, what do I do about my friend? I can't tell their parents. And we'll sit and we'll talk, okay, well, knowing what the boundaries are, because I'm a mandated reporter, how can you help? How could your parents help? Could you give your friend my number and help plan that out so that they feel empowered to bring it up to their friend or to help link them? And I think that's a great way to kind of start making it okay. We can talk about it and you can choose the steps to take so that you're not a snitch.
Right. The comment was that they agreed with your comment. So good job.
Yay!
That's one person. I remember 13 Reasons Why. That whole thing was very scary.
Well, season 3 came out 2 weeks ago, so it's back. So
I saw enough of the first one to go, okay, I know what this is doing, and it's scaring me. That kids are getting things glamorized that shouldn't be.
Yeah, I definitely don't enjoy watching it. I have a lot of issue with it, but I know that I have to be up to date with exactly what happened to each character because my kids are talking about it.
Yeah.
So.
No, I completely understand. I try to keep up with all the same, this stuff. And then my own children say, how do you know that stuff? I'm like, clients.
Yeah. Good.
If they tell me to watch, I watch it. I see it. Becoming informed.
Exactly. There were 2 weeks in a row that my teen group was mad at me because they wanted to talk about the finale of Stranger Things. And I hadn't finished yet. And so I was like, it's okay, you guys can talk about it. And they were like, no,
you can't.
There were 2 weeks in a row that I was in trouble for not finishing it. But last week I finished it, and so we had a really great conversation.
Good ending, right?
They waited for me.
Yeah, they better have another season on that one. That is all I can say, right? Because I also got sucked into that by nature as well.
Right. But to go along with like being up to date with what's happening, I have a YouTube channel and I have an Instagram and a Facebook page where I'm actively posting just kind of what's going on in the therapy world, how I do practice, what it's like to reach out to another therapist, and then also what we're doing in our groups to help with coping skills. So yesterday I posted a video on how to make a stress ball out of flour and balloons. But I think that's a great way to have a presence online, especially when attracting teenagers or young adults, because that's where they are and they want to have an idea of what they're walking into. I
absolutely agree. I've been running one for years and have hundreds of videos. I've got to subscribe to your channel. We're going to put I will put the information on this as well as your website and all of that. And yes, I think really it's not just teens, but society is responding to videos so much. A YouTube channel is the most viewed or searchable channel that there is now.
Absolutely.
And so, I think that is an excellent way for them to get to know you and to feel safe with you before. Because aren't they a little nervous when they walk in the door? They don't know you.
Who's not nervous? You don't know what you're walking into, what questions are going to be asked. So I did a video on what questions am I going to ask you in the first session? What happens when you call a therapist the first time? But I also like when a parent calls me, and a lot of times a parent's forcing their kid into therapy. I'm like, you know what? Give your kid my Instagram. Have them follow me. Have them check out my YouTube, and so you know what they're walking into.
Yeah, and then you're cool.
Then I'm cool. But then they usually, when they agree to come in the first session, they're like, oh, I saw your page, or oh, I saw you posted this. And now we have something to talk about.
It's just such a good way to do that. There's a comment. How about I, as a therapist, can tell my client that his mother shared information about the client? Oh, that's a really good question.
That's great. In my first session, I have both the parent and the teen in the room, and I look at the teen and I say, everything you tell me is confidential. I will not tell mom anything. And then I look at mom and I say, I will not tell you anything except, the things that we're mandated to tell. And then I tell mom, it doesn't go the other way. You can tell me whatever you want, but anything you tell me, I will tell client.
Right.
So I prefer that you come in session and we all talk about it together.
Right.
So I don't like having secrets from my client. So if the teen is the client, I want to maintain that relationship first.
Of course.
So let's say parent did send you an email or left you a voicemail of something that went on. I would call the parent back and ask them, can you come into session so we can discuss this together? Or I would kind of edit out or summarize what parent said and share that with the client. Hey, I got a message from mom. She was concerned about something. Do you want to tell me about it? I really don't have a lot of information. I'd rather hear it from you, but I know she's here. So if we can also have her come in and talk about it. So now they're looped into it.
So do you do, I often do this with my teens. I tell them, if it's something that, needs to be said, we can bring in your mom. And if you're comfortable with it, I will sit with you while you tell her.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll usually, when a client comes in, when they arrive, I'll ask both teen and parent, and I'll say, is there anything we need to check in on before we start?
Yeah.
And if they say no, then I start with the teen. And I usually leave the last 10 minutes and we set off of if we developed a new coping strategy or had some great insight or there's something come up, I'll say, is it cool if mom comes in or parent comes in?
Right.
And we'll share with her what we saw. And I encourage the client to say that. Sometimes they don't want to, and I'll say it, but I always want them to be in the room when that conversation happens.
You sound like an awesome therapist. You do. I'm sure you're doing an amazing job. The teens need you as an advocate in their world. There's so many teens that are in need right now.
There really are.
And they need to be heard. And I'm so glad that you're a voice for them. What is your website? My website
is Jamie Roberts MFT. So I got married last year and just changed my name. So a lot of my professional stuff is still Jamie Roberts, even though my license is now Jamie Nelson.
Right. Been there, done that. Yeah.
But my website is jamierobertsmft.com. My YouTube channel is Jamie R. Nelson LMFT.
Okay.
My Facebook page is Equilibrium Counseling Services. And my Instagram is Equilibrium Counseling Services.
Equilibrium. What made you choose that?
I was doing my own work and really looking to find reality and balance and clarity. And when I was kind of sitting with those words, I was getting into this area of balance and figuring out that balance for me is not the same as balance for you or balance for this person. Yeah. And so really that's finding equilibrium, because it's going to shift and change depending on what's going on in my life at this time versus in 5 years. And so balance or stability felt too solid for me. And so I wanted something that had some fluctuation, and equilibrium really hit that for me.
I love it. I love it. So you're going to be speaking on Decoding the Teenager.
Yes.
On September 27th.
Yes.
I will list the address. It's going to be 9 to 11. Her practice is in Rancho.
Yes.
Keep her in mind for teenagers and these groups, especially. These are wonderful groups.
Thank you.
The more resources we have out there, the better.
Absolutely.
So, do you have any questions of me?
No, I'm excited to speak for CAMFT, and I'm really going to have a lot of fun. Thank you for putting this together and kind of helping flesh out some of the ideas and the talking points. This was fun.
Sure. Also, any therapists that are in the area, we'd love you to join us on the IE-CAMFT. I'll put that information. CAMFT is doing some amazing work, and our IE-CAMFT is growing and growing, and we would love to have you. There's a lot of benefits to being a member. I'm going to put out a video on that in specific soon. But we would love to have you join us. You get to network, you get to get your CEUs, you get to learn something 10 times a year. I mean, there's just so many benefits to this. But ads in our paper, there's so many things that you can do. And just to have that place where we, can join as clinicians and, learn about each other and what our specialties and niches are and all of that is so helpful.
I really think one of the biggest things is the comfort it brings being in private practice. Because being in private practice can be very isolating and lonely.
Oh, yes.
And I think having joined CAMFT, it's made the therapy world feel smaller. And I know who I can turn to for consultation or for referral, or who's going to know who to kind of help with that support system. So it's really made it feel like a community.
Great. Well, I'm glad that it's doing that for you. It did it for me as well. Anyway, unless we have any further questions, I think this went great. I am really glad that I feel like I've made it a new friend and a referral source, which is good.
Absolutely. We'll do this again.
So we'll see you guys at the training coming up in a few weeks. So have a great day. All right. Bye-bye.